Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today. Chapter 2 of 6. Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV. Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. Welcome back for episode 2 of 6 for the fall 2020 session. Welcome back, everyone, to chapter 2 of the fall 2020 @MarketingKitchen TV hashtag Q&A Live question and answer session, where you ask your questions on Twitter and I answer them right here in the Marketing Kitchen on YouTube. Picking up where we left off, and hopefully my sight lines are going to be right this time. If you watched the last video, I was looking over here because I was told that in videos during the summer that I was looking over here. So I'm using my iPad Pro, using the Magic keyboard with trackpad. And if you're aware, when you hold your iPad in its landscape rotation, I don't know why Apple does this, but there's a camera on this side. There should be a camera right here, right? So that when I'm looking straight ahead, I look like I'm looking at you. But here, if I'm looking straight ahead, it looks like I'm looking right. If I go to look at that camera, but I look too far, I look like I'm looking into nowhere. All right, anyway, back to your questions and answers. The dilemmas of using different technology. Okay. We left off the last time right in this very spot, so let's get to this question right here. And I got to remember not to go across the camera that way. All right, only my second time doing a round of videos with this tech. By the way, I have my coffee out. It's about 100 degrees today. I know you guys are cold in New England. If that's where you are, I'm sorry, but it's about 100 here in Singapore. And I've got my mocha, so that'll really warm me up. If you see my shirt flailing here, it's because I have a fan right underneath the counter. Ah, that's so good. All right, doing this in the morning. Actually, it's the afternoon, and the weekly marker is going to be a bit late because I need to bang a few of these videos out before I do that. I just didn't get a chance to do the weekly marker. But all right, anybody who's not taking any of my courses, like, what's he talking about? All right, time out. Let's get back. Okay, question here is, for now, Agile is the law of the land, but is it here to stay, or is someone working on some other approach to IT project development? That's a fantastic question. Let's take a look and see what the thread has to say here. And going to the specific question, in-app development has numerous key benefits, with the ultimate benefit being the reduction in cost of development. Do you think that Agile process in app development will last forever, or a new one will eventually be figured out? Okay, great combo there. As a reminder, for those of you that are unaware, this term here in the fall, I decided to do something a bit different. So obviously all questions go to Marketing Kitchen TV with the hashtag Q&A, but I asked for you all to curate what you felt were the best questions, or the questions that they're all great questions, but the ones you most wanted answered. So what I did was that I asked that everyone go to my Ron Vining channel, and there just tag me and use Marketing Q to curate the best of the best, or the ones that the most need an answer. Okay, anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way in this video, just in case people are wondering what this two-step process was right here. So again, going back to the original question, and this is quite relevant for the time. It's also quite relevant to me personally. Not that I'm developing an app, but I'm developing a website. I'm utilizing WordPress as the foundation for this. And for any of you that so the marketplace is ripe with customized development. So customized development where you would hire a full stack developer, and this full stack developer has obviously a full range of skills, right? And they would custom code, in most cases anyway, the entire backbone for your website or your app or whatever the project is that you're doing, the tech-based project. And they would, and so it would be custom, okay? Custom takes time. But today, I started building websites back in 1996 with just pure HTML. And back then, there were there were resources you could go to. You could utilize different search engines. Google wasn't yet the predominant force at that time. But you could go online and you could, Google, has anybody, you could go to different forums, you could go to Yahoo groups, and you could ask, has anybody developed how to do feedback form, okay, or a comment card, or a rating? And maybe if somebody were generous and they had developed that, they would then post their code in that group. And you could copy and paste that code, and you could put it into your own, into your development, and that would speed up your ability to get that website created if you had never coded something like that before. And I never have been a full stack developer, and I don't even dare call myself a developer. But back in that day, I used pure HTML. Now there was a great cheat back in the day too, and that was a Microsoft product called FrontPage. And what FrontPage did is it was much like how PowerPoint or Word works, or even Excel, in the sense that what you see is what you get. So whatever you created on the front end, there was actually code in the back end. Now you could go in the back end and see those lines of code if you wanted to then edit them or tweak them, but that was a great way to cheat, to quickly develop a website if you didn't know all the ins and outs of the coding, okay? Now today, fast forward, almost 30 years now, crazy, I think 20, 25 plus. Anyway, so fast forward to today, you've got platforms like Weebly and Wix and Dremel and WordPress. You've got programs like, they're called builders. Builders are pretty much what FrontPage was back in the day. And you would have a builder, one of the most known ones is called Elementor. And what they do is they pretty much, what you see is what you get coding, but then there's a whole backline of code on that then somebody else could go in and develop. And a lot of the code today, obviously HTML has moved to XML, and we've got PHP and we've got CSS. And there's a number of different tips and tricks and hacks of different coding that can go in and all of that. My point to all of this is that's a bit complicated, and if you wanted to custom develop, you would just hire that full stack developer. But if time is an issue, and also money, and also there's an argument, so there are things called APIs or plugins, not just on WordPress, but in all different types of development. And what these are functions that others have created because they've specialized in that one thing. So they've taken 6, 12 months, 2 years to develop a feedback form, a contact form, a messenger, a video processor, an LMS, but a specific aspect of an LMS. And so why would you take the time from scratch to develop all of that when you could just buy or license, or somebody may be giving it away for free? But you need to be careful about that, because this is how a lot of websites are hacked today, because there would be backdoors, either intentionally or unintentionally built into these codes, that could then make your entire website or your app, whatever, vulnerable. So, but the point is that why take all of that time when you could buy or license these and literally just plug them in to your site or your app, and you're ready to go. So for example, whether it's Android or iOS, you don't need to develop a keyboard unless you want to have a custom one, because you will make use of the API of the keyboard in either Android or iOS. If you want to do a share, like share to social with a contact card, then content card, then why create that when that's pretty much open source and can just be plugged in? So you can make use of maps, you can make use of a microphone. You don't need to build. So before, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but on your phone, you used to have your camera that, let's say, and so with smartphones, as far as smartphones go, I've always bought Apple, though as a tech consultant, I developed Nokia with Windows Phone, I developed for Research in Motion, BlackBerry, LG, Samsung. So I've worked for all of the companies and their developments of their hardware and software. But let's just use Apple as the example for a minute. So when the first couple of iterations of the iPhone came out, and still my favorite iPhone today is the 3GS. I just really loved the way that felt, how it was a bit rounded and fit in your hand. Anyhow, that camera on that was horrible. That camera could barely take a decent picture. So apps like Facebook had their own camera. Google would have their own camera. And so you don't need that today, even though there are other apps for that. So I bought some great Filmic Pro. It's what I use. I'm using the FaceTime camera right now on my iPad, But Filmic has a fantastic app for doing video on both phones and iPads. I don't know if there's an Android version or not. But why would you create a camera when there's already one there? So if you're an app developer today, all you need to do is access the features that have already been enabled in either iOS or Android, and that makes the time of development less, not only in time, but also in cost. So to answer the question, the question is, do I think Agile process and app development will last forever? And I think the answer is yes. Because why would you not want to go use this approach? Why would you not want to crowdsource? Why would you not want to be able to buy or license technology unless there's something very specific that you need to create? So in my own case, for the AppFlix website that I'm building, there are a number, I'm utilizing a theme, and so I'm on WordPress, I'm utilizing a theme. I've prohibited the developers I've hired for using builders because they don't exactly develop the cleanest of code. And one of the developers I hired was using a builder at Elementor without me being aware of it. And now I've got all of these lines. So when I go into the PHP and the CSS, I've got all of these lines of like gibberish code. And I've been trying to just find what's real, what's not, delete it, and just making the website it will slow the website down. It will harm you in terms of SEO and everything as well. So I guess I'm just going on a tangent, just sharing my own experience. Maybe it's helping in answering the question. So what we're doing is that, so I'm using WordPress, and the reason I chose WordPress over Weebly or Wix, or why am I forgetting the names of like the 10 others that are out there, is because WordPress is open source. And if at some point in time I want to so when the website grows and gets to a point where WordPress is too slow of a program in terms of really search and SEO and even load time, I would then want to do a custom development. But rather than do a custom development from the ground up, you can then export that WordPress file and utilize that pure CSS and PHP, and you'd be able to get up and running a lot quicker, because you can't do that with Wix and Weebly and all of the other ones, so I can't remember at the moment, because they're proprietary. And that's the same reason why I prohibited my developers from using builders, because something like Elementor is also proprietary, and it doesn't allow you to export that file. You would need to use a form of Elementor in order for it to work properly, where you'd have to be spending a lot of time editing out all of that code, and that would defeat the purpose in that. And so in addition to utilizing the theme, I'm also utilizing plugins. So why task one of my developers to create an entire sign-in, registration, tiered membership, an account? Why have them create that when there are plugins for that? When it comes to writing blogs or forums or offering a review or participating in polls, why create that from scratch when you can get a plugin that will take care of each of those? Now, individual plugins in many cases for each of those. So then it's about integrating them into the theme. But then also you want to be branded. So some plugins they're just white label. They allow you to just insert your logo or your text or be able to customize it a bit. Some of them don't allow for a lot of customization. So in that case, you need to get plugins that allow you to then put in your own code, typically in PHP, and to be able to customize how that plugin will function or work or look. It's really about how it appears, right? As long as it functions properly. But if you're talking about having your own branded site, you want it to look and feel like how you want your brand to. So, sorry for that very extended answer, but I hope that helps you out, because I'm sure in this new economy where we all are pretty much under lockdown still and about to go into our dark winter lockdown number 2, because, and I'm going to get political for a second, because the new, well, maybe, but if there's a new administration, their health czar, who a year ago admitted that they totally botched SARS, is advocating for another extended period of lockdowns. And the globe is about to go under another extended period of lockdowns. So, if you lose your job, or you're frustrated in trying to find a job, then you'll probably want to create your own platform. So hopefully these tips have maybe helped you out in what you would do to ramp up your own business. And it's really essential to have an app or a website to do that. More particular, website first, app second. But if you got a follow-up, please hit me up on the board, because obviously this is a topic that I'm not only interested in, but I'm really, I'm currently doing it myself. So I'm able to shed some really extra hands-on light on there. But again, fantastic curation. And it looks like I'll be taking even more questions that you've curated before we're done with all of these. All right, thanks a lot. Going on to the next question. In between answering the last question and this question, my lunch arrived. And that's why the last question sort of ended abruptly. I believe I fully covered it though. There's this restaurant here, it's a takeaway place in Singapore. It actually comes in a takeout Chinese food boxes, and it is some of the best noodles anywhere. So I just basically had lo mein with beef and chili. I am full. All right, let's see if that gave me energy to answer these more efficiently, or if I ramble on even more. I reheated my coffee, so we're back in business. All right, let's take a look at this next question right here. All right, Jamie, what do you got? I am interested in this question as technology is evolving so quickly and so many are becoming dependent on it. Though there is still a gap in generations that are, I'm assuming, that are not tech savvy, how do you appeal to all? All right, let's look at the context of the whole thread and the question that was being highlighted from Victoria here. And the question is, the technology world is advancing, or is rapidly evolving, and there are a high range of marketing demographics in order to maximize profit on a product. What platforms of marketing do you think work best for the older versus younger market segmentation? Okay, let me try to unpack and digest between what Jamie was asking about your question, Victoria, and about what you're specifically asking. So I completely agree with you. The world of technology is rapidly evolving. The pace of change was already so dramatic. We were seeing, before we used to see advances in technology measured by decades. Then we saw them measured by just a couple of years. Then we saw the advancements happen within 6-month cycles. Now we see changes evolving virtually overnight, right? So you're right, there is a lot, it's quite dynamic, and there's also, when implementing or utilizing technology, we also need to understand that there is an audience that's involved, or they're not just a passive audience, they are actively involved in the process, right? So you're asking, in order to maximize profit on a product, what platforms of marketing do you think work best for an older versus a younger market segment? Well, as you might have seen, I'm not sure if you've gone through the Q&A thread, but the Q&A playlist rather on YouTube. I've answered a number of questions talking about demographics, talking about old versus young, and in particular, and I don't want to offend anyone, but it's something I'm really good at by not meaning to be. But I typically find that millennials tend to think that they own the market on technology. And I'm sorry, but you don't, because you're actually utilizing the technology that was built not only by me, a Gen Xer, but a generation before me, right? They built the foundation. It's my generation that's actually laid out the platforms that you're working on today. And your generation, assuming that you're, I'm not just saying you, Victoria, but those listening in that millennial demographic there, your generation is only just now beginning to create the platforms that the next generation will be using. So I come from several decades now where we actually built the technology, right? So I actually built a desktop PC from the ground up. I built a laptop. I created code. And we're now in a marketplace where the fact of there's nothing to do on this other than to just buy it. We're in a place and time when there's nothing to be able to be done on this device other than just to buy it. Certainly there's some coding to be done, but for the most part, the consumer, and then of course I'm looking at my iPad right now, something that you couldn't even tear apart and make any changes to, where we're in a situation now where without Google, most people would be completely lost. Like, we used to have a recipe Rolodex on index cards, right? How many people still have that in their house? They just go to Google, let's say, or they go to something, a saved folder on Dropbox. But what would happen if the power were to be disconnected tomorrow? So all of a sudden, none of your devices worked, the internet no longer worked, there was no longer Google. How would you know how to cook? How would you know how to make a fire? Would you know the process on how to even repair the generator to get it running? Or would you know how to do what would be necessary to get the backbone of the internet going again? So it's just a very interesting place that we're in, because I'm not exactly sure that the more tech savvy we become, the actual, so on the front end, how good we really are on the back end. Okay, so anyway, the only reason I say that is not to demean or put any group down. It's to say that when we're talking about a younger versus an older segment, don't discount them, because they may have actually worked in a factory building the transistors that laid the groundwork for the processor that's in this device today. Okay? They may have actually worked in an advertising or a marketing agency or in a sales role or whatever it might have been, and they might have actually built the infrastructure for the logistics from the factory to the store, or or what goes on in the back of the house in the shop that you're buying your product from. So anyway, okay, all right, sorry, tangent about that, but I just think that's important to understand. So what platforms do I think work best for an older generation? Well, I guess I need to define what the word platform is. So do you mean device? So I mean, are you talking, is it laptop, is it TV, is it your smartphone, is it your iPad, or are you talking about software, or are you talking about applications? And because they all do have different nuances to them. So for example, my grandfather, who had passed away, he was part of the greatest generation, right? So that refers to the group that fought in World War II, that made America what it is, or what it was, but they made America what we think of America being today. He actually knew how to build computers and write code. So if he were still alive today, he would marvel at this and this, but he'd be disgusted with it because he couldn't take it apart, even though he would try. But just the way the processes are done in the factory now today, things are soldered onto the board. So for example, the new MacBooks. You can't change the RAM on them. These are the new M1 MacBooks or the iPad mini. You cannot upgrade the RAM, and I'm not sure whether you might still be able to tweak the hard drive, but things are soldered onto the board, so it means that they really can't be modified outside of the factory. So he would be quite frustrated by that. So when we talk about device, that would not work for him. However, let's go to the baby boomers, right? So we'll talk about my mom now. My mom, I bought her a netbook. So before I moved to Singapore, so that was in 2009, I bought her a netbook. And so it was an HP netbook. It was the best one that they had. I wanted to buy her a Mac, but I knew that operating system would be a bit too tricky for her because she had been worked on PCs before. So anyway, I bought her an HP netbook. And when things like Skype and things didn't work so well over a couple of years of me being in Singapore, I realized that it was time to get her an iPad. And so as soon as I got her the iPad, that operating system and the whole app ecosystem certainly made from Skype, then going to FaceTime, made things a lot easier to be able to communicate over a distance. And of course, we've seen now with what's happened with everybody being shifted from the office to their homes, things like Zoom, sort of a more friendly software, if you will, than say Skype was. We saw mass adoption of that, and so that people could communicate with one another. So there's, I guess, some examples of talking about, when we talk about platform, we talk about device, as well as the operating system and probably applications, right? So when we're talking about e-commerce, then that's another layer on top of that. So whether you're accessing that from your smartphone or from your tablet or your laptop or your television. So for example, I bought my parents an Apple TV, and comes to find out, I set it up for them the last time I was in the US, and when I asked them a couple of times, oh, how are you guys enjoying the Apple TV? I just kind of got, And comes to find out, the Apple TV is no longer being utilized, and I found that out by, I did my, because I connected them to my family iCloud account, and I found out they weren't using it. So when we ask that question, it really is dependent. Age does have somewhat of an impact on that. It also has an impact on who's in the household. I think that maybe a baby boomer generation that may have grandkids in their home, they may be more adept at picking up the technology, whether it be a device or software, than another. So if you ask me the question, I guess I wanted to lay that background for you. But if you ask me the question of, from a marketer, what am I going to use? I'm probably going to build a web-based program And if I've got the cash, then I'm also going to build a mobile application to appeal to the two different types of users. But I would build a web-based, that's why AppFlix that I'm building is a web-based app, if you will, is that way it will work on everything. It'll work on the desktop, it'll work on Android, it'll work on iOS, it'll work on PC, it'll work on Mac, because it just needs to go on the internet. And of course you could access it on your smart TV as well. And as long as the interface is intuitive enough, as long as there's menus and it's clear direction on where to click, it tells you what you're clicking on, shows you where to go, I think that it can work quite well. It just needs to be clean, it needs to be clear, it needs to be specific, intuitive, right? That's just the word for that. So I would say, though, that if I were aiming for just any one device, then I would be aiming for an experience on a smartphone. Because now, of course, just about anything that happens here happens on your iPad. Apple's now making it possible that anything that happens on your iPad's happening on your Mac with their new M1 chips. And the same can be said with Microsoft, rather, even though they abandoned their own OS, the Microsoft with Nokia project that I worked on several years ago, sadly, and then their Surface, tablets, PCs, etc. So yeah, I guess I would aim for the smartphone and then work my way back based upon what you're seeing back on there. So anyway, I hope that I answered that question. I kind of needed a bit more specific information about where it was that that you were going with that, like what real specific aspect that you wanted to talk about related to it. But you're right, we're in that situation now where just everyone has been forced to be online. And so how are you going to maximize profit in engaging with that consumer? So I would go with web-based first, but your goal, right, is to be fully mobile responsive regardless of what it is that you're doing. All right? Okay, thanks a lot, you too. I appreciate that. And let's go on to the third question for this video here. And the third question Lam asks is, I like this question because I think it's good to have the most accurate answer by yours truly, because marketing is so diverse and necessary for any type of business. How do we define that, which kind we should go old school or creative? Okay, I'm not sure what you're saying, so let me see, Lam, in that last part there. So Professor Vining will try to answer that question for you, okay? Whether or not to go old school or creative. So let's go back to the source question here, and that Rachel had asked. Knowledge of buyer persona is crucial to any business's content marketing efforts. Yeah, okay. Will the existing social media platforms continue to evolve as the needs of marketers change, or will new platforms need to be created to keep up? Okay, that's a great question, Rachel. And let me take sort of two parts there. First, the statement, and the other part is the question. Knowledge of buyer persona is crucial in any business's content marketing efforts. I will say yes, and I'll also say no. A lot of marketers, yes, so let me be clear on this one. We have the ability today to completely hyper-target. So we have the ability, if we utilize CRM properly and we use cookies, etc., we utilize that whole tracking process well enough, we are able to know who is looking at our content, so we're able to identify who they are, know what their preferences are, and give them only the content that they want to see. And so I agree that is critical, but I always go back to Steve Jobs when he created the iPad. He was ridiculed when, if you recall, so if you do a search, go back to the time that the iPad came out. Number one, people made fun of the name for various reasons. Number two, people said, who wants an oversized iPhone? Like, what are people going to do with an oversized iPhone? Well, today, and unfortunately I'm utilizing my iPad, but well, actually I've got my old iPad right here, so let me pull it up. Even though Steve Jobs was criticized for coming out with the first 9.7-inch iPad, today, and here's my old iPad Pro, and so today though, have you not seen people, and I have you not seen the people who are out there using this as a camera? And so, have you ever been at a concert? I've been at a concert before and watched people looking through, I've watched the whole concert through the screen. So people taking photos. I even used to joke, I used to work out of a Starbucks nearby my home. It was just it was close in between actually it was in the city, I'm just outside the city, but it was a great location. And there was this one guy, and I used to call it his iPad office, because he used to hold the iPad up to his face and talk on it. Okay, anyway, The point that I'm just trying to make here is that if Steve Jobs had listened to all of the negative criticism that people gave him before the launch of the iPad, we would not have the world's #1 selling computer on the market today. Now, yes, I understand it's not a computer, but it's classified as one. It's a tablet. But the iPad has 70+% market share across the globe. And so it is a massive success. It has an enormous user install base. And if he had listened to the data, if he had looked at buyer personas, he would not have built the device. But he had a gut. It was in his gut that people would want, that people loved this experience so much, they would want to supersize it, and it would change the computer market. And it has. And then Microsoft pretty much copied them by just taking an iPad and creating the Surface. And then of course now sort of Apple has, in some ways, has copied them by the MacBook Pro, the iPad Pro that I'm looking at now with the Magic keyboard and trackpad case. So it's pretty much like that type of Surface experience. But now Apple is taking that to the next level, and they're transforming their MacBooks into pretty much iPads that are running dual iOS and Mac OS. So, all right, that's the first piece of that. So while I've worked on personas before, while I agree with you that personas are important, they are not the end-all be-all. I think the best marketers on the planet go with their gut. Now, there's a lot of data, and I've had this argument before. There's a number of data analysts out there that say to me that I'm wrong and that I've just been lucky, or that other marketers have just been lucky to go with their gut. Well, I disagree. Okay. Will existing social platforms continue to evolve as the needs of marketers change, or will new platforms need to be created to keep up? Well, I believe that the platforms will continue to evolve. Take LinkedIn, for example. If you look at LinkedIn from the start of our semester to right this very minute, Microsoft, ever since they bought LinkedIn, they pretty much have just been making minor increments. I think we all woke up one day to see that the interface, both on the desktop experience as well as our mobile app experience, had completely changed. Microsoft is transforming LinkedIn into a full-on social network. So here's an example of Microsoft couldn't build a social network of their own. Everything they had done before has failed. Google has never built a social network of their own that has been successful. Look at Google Plus, it failed. But they bought YouTube. YouTube is a big success, and Microsoft bought LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a success. And so what's happening now? The owners of these platforms are having to evolve them to keep up with the trends of consumers. I look at what Facebook has done, right? So Facebook went out and they acquired Instagram, which is a huge piece, and now Instagram features are being spun into Facebook, and Facebook features are being spun into Instagram. Facebook bought WhatsApp, and again, features are being crossed against the three. So right now, your Instagram account is pretty much a hybrid of your WhatsApp and Facebook, right? It has features of both. So that evolution is happening. Twitter, from the start of our semester to right this moment, has changed also. At the beginning of the semester, I told you that you needed to do a retweet with comment, and now a retweet with comment is called a quote tweet. But I've noticed now that depending on which of my profiles I'm in, when I hit quote tweet doesn't always come up. Sometimes now it's just called retweet, and that's not even retweet with a comment. I have the option of putting a comment. So these platforms are evolving. I think about Snap, and Twitter had the option to buy the technology that was in Snap, and they didn't. And then so Snapchat, as soon as Vine had ended, so Snapchat went on in its own platform, which in some ways has surpassed Twitter. And then also as soon as Twitter shuttered Vine, which I'm glad that they did, because the verb of posting to Vine was a vining. And I'm sorry, that's me. So I didn't like the fact that when I went onto my Twitter feed, everyone was hashtagging vining, but it wasn't yours truly. But as soon as they shuttered that service, that gave rise to TikTok. Right, so we see new platforms emerging. And hopefully when I launch AppFlix this year, and then in the years to come, AppFlix has some interesting features. I've got a messenger in there, I've got an LMS in there, I've got sort of an auction, or it's a yard sale portal. So these are all be spun off into other social networks as well, because I feel that the marketplace will not only continue to evolve, but the marketplace will seek new platforms that address new needs. And going back to the prior question we were talking about older versus younger audience on platforms, well, millennials tend to not cling to Facebook the way that Gen X embraced Facebook. And so from a generational standpoint, I think each generation, so what was Gen Z want, right? So you got millennial, you got the Gen Xers, me, then you got the millennials, now you got Gen Z. What is Gen Z like? What's their favorite social platform, right? They would rather be on TikTok. So yeah, we'll continue to see that change. So I hope that answers your question, Rachel. I think as a marketer, remember it's one of the bonus assignments that I offer, but there's the blog that I wrote, the LinkedIn Pulse, that talks about the modern market leader being a visionary, right? So being a visionary, being a technologist, right? Being an operative and being a storyteller. Part of that visionary piece is being able to look into the future and see what the trends are going to be. Could be based on persona, but to look to see like where the market is headed. And I think that's an important thing that you as a marketer need to do, not only for yourself but for your organization or your own business, is to try to predict the trend and ride the wave, but then try to create that next wave, as opposed to have that wave crash down on your plans and disrupt your business. Okay, great question there. Oop. Okay. Okay, great question there. Thank you. Thanks, Lam, for curating that one for us. Okay, and the final question for this particular video here is a very interesting question here. Curious to see if consumers who are getting used to the online experience choose to continue to stay online post the situation that we're in. And I will be quite curious to see how the world returns to normal and if government allows the world to return to normal. I think people are, again, I'm going to throw my commentary in when I feel that I need to, but I'm amazed at the idea that we should lock down again when the definition of a pandemic is loosely based. It is a sort of a fast-spreading, highly contagious, deadly disease without a cure. Well, fast-spreading, okay. Dangerous? Not so certain. When we're now at showing 99.3 to 99.7% survivability, and there's a cure. So therapeutics not only can treat, but they can also cure. So I would say that the word pandemic is done for what's put us in the situation that we're in. So to lock down further, that's killing the patient. That's where the cure kills the patient. And that's just insane to me. Okay, all right. So actually, this is cute, Sam. So you asked you made the initial post, and then you wanted to see what Ina's question was to your initial post. All right, so good. Let's take a look at this. So the advertisements you see at the top, bottom, and side of your search page are referred to as paid search. During the time that we're in now, can't mention that word still on Google or on YouTube, because you get filtered out. During the time of this, paid search clicks increased greatly. Will this continue to increase after the situation is over? Okay, great question. And I'm going to have to put that futurist hat on that I was talking about earlier, because I don't know, but I'm just going to give you my prediction on there. What's interesting about what's happened on the web now, and I will give a shout out to, there's a YouTube content creator, his name is John Campea. He has the John Campea Show, and he's probably the most famous in the entertainment space, and so check his channel out. He has actually said, though, that since the start of 2020 to this current day, that he has seen a drop-off not only in views, but he's also seen a drop-off in the amount of new subscribers. So he's not getting as many new subscribers as he used to on a daily basis, and he's also not getting the same amount of daily views as he used to. And he did a video recently where, because somebody had asked a question on his entertainment channel, because that's what he covers the entertainment business. He used to work for AMC, and he used to be on this popular sort of internet news mag called Collider. And so that's where I first got to see him at. Anyway, I find the show fascinating. Anyway, in his discussion, he speculates that the fact that if you were to start a YouTube channel today, that it would be very, very difficult to be successful. To one, reach the 1,500 subscribers the 1,000 subscribers rather that are necessary to sort of hit that first benchmark. And then the second would be to get the watch hours to then be monetized. And my aim was to at least hit that first. I wanted to at least get 1,000 subscribers, and I accomplished that almost a year ago now. So within the first year of the channel. But I've not hit the watch hours, and I'm not going to bother chasing it anymore, because I realized that not just other YouTubers have talked about the fact that views are just down. And so while paid search clicks are up based on what you're saying here, and I believe if I click through the article, it would talk about that. Overall views and overall engagement with content itself is down, and it's because of the fact that when it was a luxury, so in other words, when going online, and I told you in the first episode, so this is chapter 2 for the fall, I said that in chapter 1 that I just don't have it in me to do these videos anymore. When I first started this YouTube channel, I was gung-ho to do it. And the reason why I chose to do it was because one of my friends, who has a very successful website, it's called thethemeparkguy.com, he was reading, maybe you guys remember or not, I don't know, but I have a content program that I do on LinkedIn. And what I mean by a content program is that my team and I develop, we used to do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, where we would put out a unique piece of content. And so, on my Dropbox, on my hard drive, I have enough articles now to be able to release a unique piece of content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days for about 3 years now. That's how much content that we've created. And I now cut that down though. I cut that down to 12 hours a day. And the reason why is because I had some friends say to me that whenever they went to LinkedIn, it was all Ron Vining all the time. And that's never a good thing. And that's what's happening with us and with the internet at the moment and things that we do on the internet. Anything and everything we do at the moment is on the internet. And that gets old pretty quickly, especially now it's November. In Singapore, we began sort of this lockdown process towards the end of January. So it's been almost a year of all things online all the time, and it gets old. And I think that when we had the choice or the option to search for things, we had to choose. So we searched for things online. Sometimes we bought them online, but then we still went to the store to get them. When we had the choice of FaceTiming with our friends or messaging them, but then we could get together and see them. We would search for travel, and then we would actually get on a plane and we would travel. Today, we don't have those same luxuries, freedoms, liberties, and then I would say we don't have those same rights. I think about what's going on. Think about the nonsense that's happening. I won't speak about other countries, but I'll talk about America. Think about the nonsense where a governor says that you can go to a casino, but you can't go to church. The nonsense of a governor saying that you have to eat outside, but yet you can wait in line and go see a football game and sit in an arena. So a better analogy is you have to eat outside, but yet you can sit on a plane side by side with somebody. Or I guess the other major hypocrisy is the fact that you can wait in line to go to the grocery store, but you need to vote by mail because it's unsafe to wait in line to vote at the polling station. I don't know. This has been a year of utter nonsense, in my opinion. And so I think a lot of people are just getting fed up with it all. And so yes, the internet is now the go-to for just about everything commerce. It's about the go-to for just about everything related to your job, again, depending upon your industry. It's for finance. Like, so for example, as you know, I'm in the purchase, I started this purchase over the summer, but I'm buying a home in the US. And, the entire process has been going on remotely. So it's interesting to be able to be in one country and then buying a home back in your home country. And it's pretty much smooth, but I'm amazed that we're not in a fully online environment, and the fact that now a hiccup is, do I have to physically be at the closing, and why can't we just do it virtually? So anyway, my attorney and the bank are having that discussion with each other right now. Because I was planning to return home, but due to travel restrictions, I'm still here. So bizarre. Anyway, back to the question there. So during the time of this, paid search clicks increased greatly. Will this continue to increase after it's over? Yes and no. I think that my prediction is the fact that we will see a falling off. So if governments ever come to their senses, if they're not toppled by their own people first, so either they're going to come to their senses or they're going to be toppled by their citizens. I think once we get to that situation where we can return to normal, there will be a falling off, and certain people will. They will put these to the side and they'll go back to living life the way they want to. There will be others, however, though, either for fear or either just by now force of habit or convenience, they will remain in this virtual state. So yeah, there's actually a cool game a new Lego game that I got. It's Lego Mario. And yeah, anyway, just indulge me for a second while I back you out of here. And anyway, I think that was a great question, Nina. Thank you. And Sam, thanks for curating that and bringing that to our attention. But anyway, there's this great, and here we go. I'll turn him on for you right here, and you can hear him. So this, what's amazing is that Lego has really been working on creating a sort of a virtual physical experience with their toys to engage across all channels. And so this is the Lego Mario minifigure, and so what's really cool about Lego Mario is there's a course, and yeah, anyway, I'll show you the course right here. So you just take Lego Mario and you bounce him around the course, and he adds up different coins just like he would in the video game. And then what will transpire is that if you have the Lego Mario app on, you can monitor his progress in the course, and you can collect the coins and you can see his score. So it's really taking a virtual video game and bringing it into the physical world, and of course you build the sets as well too. This is not Lego's first attempt at kind of creating that cross virtual physical experience. They've done it before with Lego Dimensions. They've done it with this other thing called the Hidden Side, where you utilize your smartphone, and it's a cross-platform with augmented reality. So yeah, I think we're going to see, though, that we live in a physical world and people want to be in that physical world. That's just my opinion anyway. Okay, that's it for Chapter 2. I really appreciate you tuning in for this. I hope that you found the answers to these 4 questions of use. And I'm going to try very hard in Chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6 to get to as many questions as possible in the shortest answer possible. Okay? All right, so anyway, thank you very much. We'll pick up in the next episode with Laura's question. All right?
See you later.
Thank you for watching episode 2 of 6 for the fall 2020 session. I look forward to seeing you in the 3rd video. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this marketing kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.